Huh?
Do I have to press this button to go live?
Officials
I think so.
Virginia's largest city have repealed the ban on panhandling.
Where's
in the wake of
Griffin?
the Supreme Court's decision. Virginia Beach City Council repealed the law this week.
Sure.
The attorneys cited a
Yeah, you do. You have to push it to turn it on.
This?
Yeah,
As soon as he's ready.
when we're ready.
News and analysis at townhall.com. I'm Ron Dorris.
Good afternoon. It is 3:05 at KSCO 1080 AM 104.1 FM. This is your King of the Hill traffic and weather update. Highway 17's got a little bit of a traffic backup coming around the bend on 17 going southbound lane. Northbound is completely clear from Santa Cruz all the way to San Jose. 101 has also got some southbound traffic going from Madrone to San Martin, where it clears up.
Yeah, you're going to have to push that to the one.
I did, nothing happened.
When you start. Good. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. This is Carol Montgomery. I am a retired marketing executive and the patient of our host today, Dr. Duncan McCollum. Dr. Duncan McCollum is a chiropractor, health expert, and author. And we are part of the Stepping In show and are doing our first health segment. And it's a topic that I think is relevant to, and this phrase is weight loss resistance. So today I'm very honored to have Dr. Duncan McCollum here because he's going to tell us, Dr. McCollum, what is weight loss resistance and what causes it?
Thank you, Carol. It's really great to be here. And, first and foremost, I just want to let everybody know that I've been practicing chiropractic in Santa Cruz for the past 30 years almost. And, some amazing results come from taking care of the nervous system. But what we run into is a whole nother issue, which is the chemical toxicity in our environment. And this has gotten so bad that it's getting into our bodies and it's stopping our bodies from functioning well. So it gets down to the point where the cells, which is life, actually can no longer work correctly. And we're going to go into some more of that information.
Okay, that's great. So I have a sneaking feeling this has something to do with a topic most of us don't know much about. I know what that is because I've been your patient and you've been helping me a lot in this area, and it's called cellular inflammation, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so that would be defining as inflamed cells. The cells are inflamed in some manner. So where does that come from?
Yeah, great. So the cell wall is what communicates between the outside environment and you, your life. And so many environmental toxins, which we will go into in a little bit, get into the cell lining by getting through not filtered out of your bloodstream correctly. And it actually swells up the cell wall, just like if you got poison oak and you got it so bad that your face was swollen shut. You still have eyes, but you can't see. So the cells get swollen for various reasons, so that the vitamins and minerals and the hormones and all those things that should be talking to the cells can't get in. So this causes all kinds of mess ups. It causes the body to not work correctly.
And does everybody have some degree of this at some point in their life, or more people than others, or ages than others?
Well, I think it's fair to say that we live in a pretty polluted environment. Depending on our lifestyle, what type of profession we've been in, all of these things can affect us. What kind of foods we put in our body. We know right now that a lot of the food is not these degrees. Your health gets lower and lower and lower, and then the next thing you know, you've got a lot of problems, and one of them is weight loss resistance.
Now, I'm familiar with the term insulin resistance. So is there is this something that's similar? Weight loss resistance, is that word resistance used in a similar way?
That's actually an absolutely perfect question, Carol, because what happens is, I think most people know that when you have a problem with blood sugar and or even if it goes so far as diabetes, it is a problem with insulin not being able to operate on the cell correctly, to get the sugar into the cell and out of your bloodstream. So what happens is this organ in our body continues to produce more and more and more insulin. It's like trying to try to open a real rusty screen door, which one insulin used to be able to do all by itself. But now, because of the debris and the cellular tension on the cell wall, rust if you want to call it, you can't open the sliding glass door by itself. So your body has to kick in more and more insulin. Pretty soon, it can't even do it. So next thing you know, the medical doctor, in order to help you, is giving you more insulin to try to push open the door.
So when cellular inflammation actually begins to take place, are there certain things that we would feel internally? I mean, before we even get to a point where we know we have a problem with weight loss resistance, is there something else that we might feel as this is happening?
Well, absolutely, but it could be so slow forming. It could be as simple as your energy levels drop down. You're not sleeping well. You start to get more headaches. Your hair might fall out. Things along that line. So it's really a matter of how bad does it get before you do something about it.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, that's fascinating. So I guess the next question I want to ask you is specifically drugs or supplements or whatever, where they will use the term cellular inflammation, but not necessarily tell you what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad that you actually defined it better for us. So what causes then cellular inflammation? We're going backwards here, I guess, but what actually causes the cells to swell or get inflamed?
That's great. So let's just imagine you're driving down the road and you have, in your exhaust pipe, you have a hose stuck in your exhaust pipe and coming around and going into the cab of your car through the window.
Okay.
And you're driving around, you're making energy, the car's putting along, but all of the exhaust, rather than going out the back, is coming into your living quarters. And you might get where you want to go, but you're going to feel terrible, you're going to be mentally messed up, and eventually it could kill you. So when our body cannot eliminate toxins correctly, which is a big problem in our country, all of these digestive issues, and I could name a whole bunch of them, but sponge in it. And I was washing the walls, and I never cleaned the water, and I kept washing the walls with dirty water. I'd never have a clean wall. So our body that is actually making us sick, and it's inflaming the cell walls, and it's stopping these things like insulin to communicate inside the cell.
Wow. Okay. And cells, there's a lot of them in our body, right?
So yeah, there's a lot. There's something like the number keeps changing, but somewhere about 72 trillion. It could go up or down depending on what all you're counting.
Wow. So then you could have cellular inflammation then in one part of your body, but not another. So could you have it, like if you had leaky gut,
Mm-hmm.
and there was cellular inflammation in the gut, would you have it everywhere, or would it just be centered in that particular area or organ?
Well, you might have some organs that are more susceptible to being affected by it. Maybe you've had a cold or injury or some kind of virus or disease when you were younger that made that organ already susceptible and somewhat weak. So it might be targeted more by these toxins than others. But I think it's pretty fair to say, since blood is flowing all throughout your body, that you're going to have some degree of inflammation throughout the body. Some areas might be more affected. And those would be, like you said, Time Magazine had an article about how inflammation is responsible for heart disease, or inflammation can be causing other problems in the body. So it depends.
So when they say that, they're actually talking specifically about what you're talking about, which is the actual inflammation within the cell itself.
Yeah.
Okay. So I know cells do things like create energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it would make sense to me then, if I was feeling tired or starting to feel tired and couldn't really figure out why, there is a possibility it could be a signal that the cells are becoming toxic.
Yeah, definitely. And, I just want to touch again on the insulin thing we were talking about.
Okay.
I think everybody realizes, or have probably heard, or has a friend that is having a problem with insulin. They may be taking a medication for it. But that is simply a symptom of the cell wall not being able to recognize insulin. Well, the real message here is insulin isn't the only hormone having trouble getting into the cells. Estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, all the sex hormones. And how many of your friends do you know that are on different types of female hormone replacements? And thyroid hormone. There's so many people on thyroid. I believe it's like 36 million people are having trouble with their thyroid, which is simply a hormone not being able to communicate with the cell.
And there are other things that go into the cell besides hormones, correct? Like the nutrients from food and
vitamins and minerals and all of those amino acids, which are broken down protein, and the fats. All that stuff has to work on the cell. It's a beautiful system. Our body is so magical if we can just allow it to do what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, exactly. So you mentioned the word toxins, and that toxins are connected to cellular inflammation. So are there certain toxins that we experience over our lifetime that are more toxic than others that are directly inflaming our cells?
Yeah, great question. And of course, the number one thing that we have to be aware of right now is what's something called glyphosate. And glyphosate is the substance in Roundup. And it's sprayed so liberally on our fields and on the commercial grains and food systems that it's causing tremendous amount of problems with our digestive system. And there's tons of evidence of how it is breaking apart the tight junctions in our digestive system. So it's allowing bad substances to leak into our body that should have never been in there. And those are floating around, causing even more and more inflammation.
Now, this chemical, glyphosate is actually, there's a warning now from the state of California about it, right?
Yeah, the state of California is the first state that has put a black label on glyphosate saying that it's dangerous and is carcinogenic and stuff. We're going to go to a commercial break here, so stay tuned and we'll be back in just a minute.
The commercial was at 3:30.
Did you turn it on? Talk about that for a minute.
Hi, this is Carol Montgomery, and I'm back here with Dr. Duncan McCollum, chiropractor, health expert, and author. And we've just been talking about why I can't lose weight despite diet and exercise. And we were discussing weight loss resistance and how weight loss resistance actually comes from something called cellular inflammation. And that cellular inflammation is actually brought on by certain toxins in our environment. Now, before we continue, I just wanted to mention that I know on Tuesday night, right, you're having a workshop at the Seacliff Inn in Aptos from 7 to 8:30, and you're going to be going into a lot deeper education about everything that we're talking about today, correct?
Yeah, our goal is really to try to give the listening audience something that they can actually do themselves. We want to allow you to get the information you need to make good decisions and start to turn these things around. So we'll be going over that on Tuesday night. And also, if you are watching, you can see us on Facebook at Dr. Duncan McCollum, DC. We're streaming live right now.
Hello.
And if you have any questions, put the questions down in that bar there, and we'll be able to address them for you Saturday or Tuesday night. And we really appreciate it. If you want some more information, just say like, and we'll make sure to add you to our list so we can give you the upcoming information of what we'll be doing.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thanks. So where were we? We were talking about the toxins or the top 3 toxins that actually are related to cellular inflammation. So number 1. Oh, no, actually, you were talking about glyphosate, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Well, glyphosate is one of the top 3
Yeah.
toxins, and there's a lot of great information out there on it, but just know that it is it's not being monitored well enough, and we're getting so much of it in the food we eat. So the best thing you can do, number 1, is stay away from commercial grains and try to eat as much organic food as you can. Even if you're do eat meat, you want organic meat. The reason why is because the cows are being fed grain, and if they're being fed grain that's been sprayed with glyphosate, that glyphosate is getting to you through the meat you're eating. And a lot of times they're also putting other poisons like pesticides, herbicides, which is glyphosate, that they can also be giving those cows growth hormone and antibiotics to help with any kind of disease from the mass production of them. So, cleaning up your diet, we'll be going into that in much more detail on Tuesday night.
Okay, so if it says on the ingredients that that cow is vegetable fed or has a vegetable diet, then can I assume that that vegetable could be corn that's been sprayed with glyphosate?
I would think that'd be a good assumption.
Okay.
Definitely getting the grass-fed organic is going to be best. And by the way, a lot of times people say that it's too expensive to buy organic food, but if you stay tuned and come Tuesday night, then you're going to find out actually how to make that not cost so much.
Well, and also we have a lot of great local stores in the area too that can give us all sorts of choices in that regard too.
Yeah.
So what is the second enemy number 2?
Enemy number 2. Okay, well that would be heavy metals.
Oh wow.
Yeah, our environment is filled with heavy metals, and probably the worst one is lead. And the lead is in our bone, and it's actually what it does is it sets the stage, or allows other pathogens and toxins to get into your body because it changes the chemistry around the tissue that it's sitting in. So it kind of makes the bed for parasites, yeast, candidas, molds, and all that kind of stuff.
Wow. And so I'm more familiar with mercury. That would be another one, right?
Yeah. And just know that lead, though, people wonder where you're going to get lead. Well, it's from anybody as old as me, or going to be at a time where there was lead in gasoline, lead in paint, all that kind of stuff. But also just know that it comes down for 4 generations through your mother.
Oh, great. So,
thanks, through your
Mom.
mother's mother's mother. Yeah.
Thanks, Mom. And then, of course, going back to mercury, I recall, I think you mentioned once that you considered mercury or that the generation that we're in, which is, don't tell anyone, over 55, that we have probably more mercury in our bodies than most generations before us, correct? I mean, I'm sitting here with a mouth that has a couple of mercury fillings in it that I hope to get out soon. But
yeah, that's a great question, and there is a good way to find out, and I'll come to that in a minute. Okay. But just know that there's mercury is everywhere. Heck, when I was a kid, I used to play with it in my hand because it came in all of our toys, and I'd break my toys and collect the mercury. And then
thermometers. I just remembered about the thermometer and the mercury.
Yeah. Yeah, and actually, what's really interesting, of course, there's the mercury in your teeth, which there's a whole. That could be a whole subject on its own, but just know that it's there, and it's not a good thing. You have to be very, very careful if you are deciding to get it taken out. And one thing you may or may not know, Carol, but back in the 70s and 80s, if you wore contact lenses, they had mercury in the water that you put in your eye to keep your eye moist or whatever you did. I don't know.
He says to a contact lens wearer of almost 20 years. Thank you.
Yeah.
I learn so much whenever I talk to you. So, enemy number 3.
Enemy number 3 is mold. And mold has been around forever, and you know it's insidious. It can sneak up on you, and it actually is very, very toxic and very poisonous. And it could break down your cells. It can damage your brain. It actually gets into all these places, and it's one of the most toxic things there is.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so you mentioned that there are some tests for these things?
Yes, actually. Dr. Shoemaker is the leading authority right now on mold in the body, and the test that he put together is a visual test that we do in our office, and it actually can test the optic nerve. Your optic nerve is the most direct way into your brain neurologically, and molds and heavy metals have a certain way of affecting the contrast of what you can see in the optic nerve. So that's definitely one of the things. It's an indicator of toxicity with the molds.
Okay, and is there one specifically that would test like the level of cellular inflammation or toxicity, as you call it?
Yeah, we've all heard of oxidation, and we've heard of free radicals, and you know, all these vitamins and minerals that are being sold on the market to try to knock those out and save our body from being affected by them. The best way to think about this whole subject, if you went out to an old car that had not been waxed in years, and you take your hand and rub it across the paint, and all that white stuff comes up on your hand,
yeah.
That's oxidation. That's basically what toxins are doing to your cells. They're literally breaking down the cell wall, also affecting the inflammation of the cells, and breaking down the communication, hormones and stuff in and out of the cells.
So what kind of test then would be that test? Is that like a urine test?
Yeah, we have a urine test that actually will test for cellular inflammation level. And, you know, I wish more people did it. I mean, if you had this at one of the main labs in town, it would give you so much.
I've started to read a little bit and talked about a lot more, I think, over the internet, about the three enemy number 1, 2, and 3.
Mm-hmm.
So from what I'm hearing then, this is really more about the toxin overload, right? I mean, I can see now that if you are 55 plus, that you could have quite a lot of toxins in your body that are toxin overload, and how that connects with weight loss resistance. Is it the hormones that does that?
Well, there's a couple things. First and foremost, I think we need to talk about fuel that you're putting in your body, because if, you know, for the toxic overload, you have what you came to the table today.
Right.
We know that protein and carbohydrates, which are all your vegetables, everything but fat, burn like, they burn sugar. They turn into sugar. Sugar burns like a smoky fireplace. So if you had a fireplace in your house and you were burning smoky wood and you opened the door a little bit, all that smoke comes out, and it's pretty toxic. When you eat more of a healthy fat food, that fat burns.
So at no charge. And so that answers that question, I think.
Yes, but I'll go on to what we were talking about is like, so cleaning up the environment enough and getting the cell walls healthy, and some of that has to do with what you're putting in your body.
Right.
So we've got to take a look at the food groups you're putting in and make sure you're eating good, healthy oils. And we're going to go into that in more detail, but basically organic grass-fed butter, coconut oil, avocado oil, and organic olive oil as well as hemp oil are all oils that make up a healthy cell wall. All those polyunsaturated ones that you and I grew up on, including nickel-inflated canola oil with yellow dye in it, better known as margarine, all that stuff is going to cause
weight loss and weight gain, correct?
Yeah, definitely. There's we all heard about insulin that actually, puts sugar in the cells and it creates fat. There's another hormone that actually burns fat. And we want to make sure that that hormone can be heard by the brain. When the body's inflamed, it can't be heard. One variable here to understand is some people don't get heavy, they don't get fat no matter what they eat. Other people do. So there is a genetic predilection here. It does depend on your genes, and those are inside your cells. And what the problem with toxins is they have a tendency to turn on bad genes.
Oh.
They can actually, they've taken For instance, there's studies with mice. They take a gene out of a mouse that's skinny and put it into a or skinny mouse. Excuse me. They take a fat gene and put it into a skinny mouse, and that mouse gets fat. So I guess what I'm trying to say is a lot of everything we've talked about also has to do with the unique individual and what they're prone to.
Right.
So it's so important to know what's going on with your own body, have a real clear history of where you've been, what you've done, what kind of injuries you've had, as well as your family history, allows us to make sure that we can help you as much as we can with your health goals.
And so what I'm hearing then from you is this is not just about toxic overload or cellular inflammation affecting our ability to lose weight. It also can affect just our health in general. So a skinny person who may not want to lose weight, but they may have an issue with weight gain, that person can still have cellular inflammation, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Anything that's not optimum, you can trace back to the cell not working right. So the basic bottom line here is if we can fix a cell, you can get well.
Yeah.
And I think that's it.
I couldn't connect it with anything that I was eating or anything I was doing. I started to have trouble sleeping. And then it got to a point where all of that just snowballed. And fast forward, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune condition and chronic fatigue syndrome. And it was not fun by any means. My day was shortened till about maybe 4 hours total in a 24-hour period where I could actually function.
Wow.
And function meant maybe I could walk down the block. At one point, I couldn't even walk up 2 steps of stairs without having, just wild stuff go on. I used to say that my body had just gone psycho. But it came on gradually, and then it just, every year over year, it just got worse and worse and worse. And I went to 4 doctors. I had lots of tests, never a heavy metal test, and no one could tell me what was wrong with me. And then finally, I had a doctor actually do a viral test on me and discovered that I had a very bad virus in me, which they now connect a bit to chronic fatigue syndrome, and that led me to you.
Awesome. Well, that's, I want to hear more. I'm sure the audience does too. We're going to take a second and we'll be right back. Wow, that's amazing. This, by the way, is a whole mess you were in.
And another lead-in from Dr. McCollum. Actually, the reason I'm here today, just so everyone, it was a situation where, as I said, 4 doctors and I don't know how many practitioners could not really truly assess what was wrong with me. I would get put on different programs, different fixes, quote unquote. Some were pretty wild. And I might feel better for a month or 2, but then it was really just, I'd go up and I'd come down, and I'd go up and I'd come down, and it would just get worse and worse and worse. So when I retired for that reason. I couldn't function, right? I couldn't function on my job. So I came out here, California, from the East Coast, and I ended up seeing you because I am also your chiropractic patient. and then started to complain about all these other things that were going on with me, including wanting to lose weight. And you introduced me to the next topic we have today, which is something called the cellular detox program, which quite honestly I had never even heard about, didn't even know existed, didn't know anything about the people who had actually put, the doctors and scientists who had put it together. And I was reticent, wasn't I? I was resistant to actually starting this thing.
You told me you were not going to do it.
Yes, I did. I said I was not going to do this because I had tried everything known to God and man, just like I had for losing weight, and that I wasn't going to take another supplement. But you talked me into it, and I'm very glad you did. And so, you know, here I am today. It's been now, 4 or 5 months since I finished this program, and I mean, I can't believe it. I just feel great. And I couldn't believe it when I was doing it either. First, my energy got better. I started to sleep better. I had a major hormonal imbalance. My hormones balanced out. I mean, it was magic. I mean, I don't know how else to describe it, but it was magical. And so for me, I wanted to find out more about the cells, so I'm really glad I'm here today to ask you all these questions, because I think it's important education and information for everyone, because I've now seen a lot more patients than just myself go through this. And so my next question to you is, how do we fix ourselves?
Oh, that's great. And, you know, I want to just say, Carol, that you've actually gone another step further, and you became a coach in the cellular and a lot of training, and it's amazing. You've taken some people through this program, and they've had some amazing results.
Who would ever think an opera major would be talking about cellular biology? But here I am.
An opera major who was a high-tech guru,
Yeah,
and now here you are.
whatever I am now, yes.
Well, you know, so I've got very lucky to get introduced to a gentleman, my mentor, a guy named Dr. Daniel Pompa, and he's without a doubt the world leader, if not, you know, one of the top people in the field of cellular healing. And he hangs with all of the big guys. And I'm one of about 40 docs that are training ultimately and with him. And we work very hard. We study, we compare studies, patient case studies back and forth. So we have a huge team behind us for any person that comes into the office. It's not just my office in Capitola, but it's, you know, the planet and a lot of the other great minds behind it. Well, cellular detox, there's really kind of 3 different parts to it. Everybody might take a different, it might run differently with individuals, but first and foremost, we have to clean up the environment so your body can heal. You know, a lot of times people come in and go, I did a 4-day cleanse, or I did a 10-day cleanse, or I had a coffee enema, or whatever they did. And, you know, they're not bad, but they're just not thorough. Mm-hmm. It's like it's like cleaning your car, but not vacuuming out the inside or getting it completely detailed. Your body needs to be detailed, if you will. You know, we have to get really to the source. And it's not going to happen overnight. A friend of mine, I was talking to her the other day, and she says, hey, if you could take a pill today and it would make you as healthy as you could be for the rest of your life and give you all the energy you needed for the rest of your life, how many of you would take that pill? Probably many of you.
Yeah, exactly.
And just not that easy. So first and foremost, we have to take a look at the individual's diet, what they're putting into their body, how toxic they are now, what their history is, where did they get these toxins from. But the first thing we're going to do is clean up the inflammation. We're going to get the digestive system working right. That could take a month, or it might take 2 or 3, depending on how sick people are. Right. There's some amazingly sick people that have gone through this program that nothing else has helped. And but it's a commitment of, we don't really want to work with people who aren't committed. Right. So we take you through the gut, make sure that your digestive system's working right. You're not going to take in a lot more toxins. And then we have to repair the damage done to the organs, like the liver, the kidney, all these things that pull the heavy metals and other toxins and biochemicals out of your body. So there's a month or 2, depending on healing the organs and getting them to work well again. And then we actually start to pull heavy metals and chemicals out of the body with an agent at that time. Right. And then once we're ready, the real thing comes, the real issue we're looking for is the brain. Then we have to work on getting the stuff out of the brain. The reason why is because there's actually 3 glands up there. You may have heard of adrenaline or your adrenal glands.
Yeah.
Well, there's a master gland that's controlling everything. It's like, in the movie Avatar when they get in those big machines and there's one guy there. Well, that one guy is your pituitary gland, or your hypothalamus, you can call it. There's 2 glands. They control everything. And if there is nothing protecting those, you don't have a barrier protecting them from these heavy metals and toxins. And they have a tendency to find this tissue and hang in there. Until we fix that, the chances of really long-term improved health is like you said, it's going to be up and down. Now, I know we're talking about losing weight and weight loss resistance, but I believe that once you start to feel well, you want to know, how do I stay this way? Because many diets can get you to lose weight, but how do I do it permanently? How is it safe? And, that's it.
Yeah, and also, just so people know, I mean, even though weight loss wasn't number 1 on my list because I'd basically given up, I did find, as you know, I started to lose weight without even trying. It was as if, as I was cleaning out the closet, that things just started to magically leave the closet on their own, without my sweeping, on purpose. But I did lose, I think it was 5 or 6 pounds without even thinking about it. And then once I put in place all the other things, the proper diet and whatever, and some maintenance, then, that's what am I, like 16 pounds now. And again, with really not a lot, which is pretty amazing. So just to recap just a little bit, when you talk about, obviously there's a diet component to this. And so when you're talking about diet, we don't have to do major changes to the diet, correct? I mean, this is really more of exchanges and adjustments to the diet.
Yeah, absolutely. I think most people out there who have tried to lose weight they're familiar.
Then bad stuff goes in and out. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, just think about a strainer. A strainer has certain size holes in it. And when you put substances in that strainer, anything that goes through that strainer is supposed to go through. Those are the good nutrients and substances that go into your body. But if you have marbles and rocks now getting through those holes because they've been pried open, that you're getting bad stuff into your body. So those junctions are supposed to be a certain way, and they've been destroyed by antibiotics, from the glyphosates, from other chemicals, from other drugs, and just a bad diet in general. They swell them up. So we got to fix that first.
Okay. And then kidneys and liver, and then of course the brain. So the heavy metals reside in the fatty tissue of the brain, correct?
Yeah, and they love the pituitary gland and the hypothalamus.
Yeah, okay.
You know what's interesting, real quickly, just like you have the leaky gut lining, that same lining, you have something called the blood-brain barrier in your brain. And that protects the brain the same way as the gut protects the digestive system. That becomes leaky too, and then you get other substances in the brain, including insulin. You get too much insulin in your body, it's going to get in your brain, and maybe you may or may not have heard this, but type 3 diabetes now is the same thing as Alzheimer's disease. So all of this stuff not being handled is leading to terrible things down the road. So weight loss, absolutely, but your future health, really important.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely got that when I went through the program. So how do people find out more about their own level of toxicity? Is there something that they can do right away, or the consultation they can get, or these tests that you were talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously coming Tuesday night is going to be really important, and you can ask your questions on Dr. Duncan McCollum, DC, on my Facebook page. But because you've just tuned in, or maybe you've been listening, what we're going to do is offer a complimentary consultation if you just mentioned the station and my show with Carol, because what we want to do is we want to help people, and we need to find out, what do people need from us, what information. So for us to offer our services and see what we can do to help you is going to help us better serve the community. So if you call my office along with it, which you will need to have, we need you to get that so we can find out what's going on.
And so we are still Facebook Living.
Yeah.
on the Dr. McCollum, Dr. Duncan McCollum DC Facebook page. And you also have McCollum Family Chiropractic, which will have a link so that people can register for that event. And yes, we are doing commercials about this event, I understand, but it's so important to everyone that I don't mind saying it again and again, because I want people to experience the same things that happened to me, and also that I see now as a person.
Here the event. So I highly recommend, if you can't make it and you're out of town, to go ahead and ask for a ticket.
Okay, awesome. And we have time to recap, right?
Yeah.
I always like to recap. Okay, so we started out with my big question of the day is why I can't lose weight despite and no matter the amount of diet and exercise I do. And we connected that to something called weight loss resistance, which is really where the body prevents you from losing weight, the body being your cells, which control the body, right? And then we linked that to this thing called cellular inflammation, which is really based on new scientific research. I mean, it's sparking a lot more research and clinical trials, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And then we linked cellular inflammation to this thing that I call toxins overload, which sounds as awful as it is. And that is directly connected to mold, heavy metals, and this chemical spray called glyphosate,
Right.
which is found in Roundup, sprayed on agricultural fields all over the world, ingested by animals and man, et cetera, et cetera. And then we connected the toxin overload to the hormones that actually regulate weight loss and weight gain. So there's our weight loss resistant problem right there, is the hormones aren't functioning because of cellular inflammation, which is causing weight loss resistance. Away we go.
Well, you're a good listener.
I am. Well, you can tell I used to train. So that leads us to the solution to this whole problem, whether it be weight loss resistance itself or cellular inflammation, which is that we do really have to fix the cell. And it's not just fixing the cell to lose weight, but it's also fixing the cell to get well.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's just so much more I'd love to go into.
I know, me
You
too.
need to come Tuesday night so we can really get this information. Next month we'll be here the second
right.
Saturday. What's our topic next month?
Oh, yeah, thank you for saying that, because I actually wrote it down, because I'm at that age where I have to write everything down. Although brain fog went away, Dr.
That's
McCollum,
true.
my brain fog went away. Okay, so heavy metals, and actually I chose this topic, didn't I?
Yeah.
I chose this topic because I feel now that I have much more control over my health than I ever did my whole life, and that I can maintain the success that I've had, the wins that I've had, from what I've been doing with you, but now I can take it back. I can take my health back. I know what to do now. I know what to look for. I know how to eat right. I mean, it's great. So I'm very excited about next month's show being about heavy metals and how we can really dive deep into that one area.
Yeah, I'm excited about it too. I really am happy that we're here and that Jackie Tucker gave us